I'm Judge Gerald Parker. I was elected to Montgomery County Common Pleas Court on November 6th of 2018. Honored to become our first African-American male to serve on Montgomery County Common Pleas Court Bench, which is interesting because as you hear a little bit about my career, you'll learn a little bit about the high percentage of African-American men that come in and out of our court system, but our court never having had an African-American male behind the bench. But my career started as a Montgomery County prosecuting attorney. It allowed me to be on the front lines of justice. It allowed me to work with police. I prosecuted all your high-level felonies, from your your murders down to your drug possessions, which are a bulk of the felonies that come through the court system. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Developed great relationships with both the defense attorneys and with the police. After about 5 years there, and during my time there, I should say, it did give me an opportunity to bring young men and women into the courtroom with me so they could kind of see how the court really operates, as opposed to just getting their information from the news or from the newspapers. Go into the courtroom. It's an open courtroom. Remember, if you ever want to come see my court, you ever want to see what goes on in there, you have an open reign. Come on in and check it out for yourself. So I want to offer that invitation to anyone here. So after 5 years, I went to Dyer, Garofalo Mann, and Schultz. I know most of you know that name. I was not in the commercials. I'm not the tiger, of course. There's two types of law. There's the criminal law and the civil law, and it got me the opportunity to do civil litigation. While I was there, though, I was led, for whatever reason, God led me to develop a relationship with Mr. Howard, and occasionally have the opportunity to speak on certificates for qualifications for employment and see the amount of work. What I did was very minuscule compared to the work that Brother Quentin Howard does there, and the amazing things that are going on with reentry. Having had the opportunity in civil work to go to many different courts in the state of Ohio, Montgomery County is on the top end when it comes to at least caring about those and understanding that 90% of the people that are going to jails and going to prison, guess what, are going to get out at some point in time. We forget that, don't we? We really forget about that. So these folks are going to go to jail, go to prison, but they're going to come out at some point in time. One thing that changed, and well, let me come back to that. After about 5 years there at Dyer, I then went to become magistrate judge in Juvenile Court, Montgomery County Juvenile Court. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is one of the most important courts in this county. People forget about juvenile court a lot because it's juveniles. Silly juveniles throwing rocks through here, or silly, but you forget, not only does it handle delinquency cases, and juveniles are becoming quite a lot more violent these days, but two, it is the divorce court for unwed parents. And people forget about that. A lot of emotions happen there. And you get to see juveniles. The newly elected Helen Wallace, whose son has dyslexia, she has a very, very big emphasis on pushing dyslexia and pushing for those types of brain functions, and how we can kind of specify each and every juvenile as to tailoring for them. Because a lot of these juveniles, I can tell you, when they're in front of me, as soon as they get behind in school, they check out. And if they miss a week, and some of these juveniles months, or out the first half or second half of the semester, they come back and have no idea what's going on. And that's for the ones that can read and can comprehend. When I was in high school, if you missed a day, you felt like you were behind. Right. If you missed a day of school, you felt like you had no idea what was going on. And we have many juveniles who are missing a lot of time because, not just because of a delinquent act, but because of their home life and their situations that come before that. And being there at the forefront, there were juveniles whose older brothers and parents that I prosecuted when I was an adult prosecutor. And you see this cycle. And I hate to say now that, having been elected, I've already seen 3 juveniles that are now 18 now, of course. But I saw one in the hallway. I said, "Dude, are you following me?" And he goes, "You're following me." And I was like, "Well, let's not follow each other here." So I've already seen 3 juveniles in front of me, and I've already had one of the fathers of one of the juveniles in front of me. And now you're just waiting for his son to come before me at some point in time. The cycle is something that I talked about during my campaign last year, and it's come to fruition. It is serious. It is something where we are really starting to realize that the type of work that we do, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're now a judge, whether you're in social work, whether you're doing reentry, whether you're working for the county, whether you are working for organizations specifically tailored towards dyslexia, we become more of social workers now. And that's great, because now we're starting to care more about people, and they're just not a body and a number. We're starting to realize that majority of these folks are non-violent offenders, especially the drug epidemic. And when I was a prosecutor, you got one shot at getting a case granted for intervention in lieu of conviction. So if you had a felony, it's your first felony, no priors, you get a file motion for intervention in lieu of conviction. It's a low-level felony. They do not file that judgment entry. You don't have a felony on your record. So long as you go through the probation elements, and that felony will go away. You don't get charged with that. You don't get charged, but it's not filed, right? And that could be a hindrance for you trying to get a job at a later date. Well, things have changed now to where you get multiple opportunities, because people are starting to realize that felony 4, that felony 5, or even for that nonviolent offense can keep you from getting a job, keeping you from getting housing. So we're starting to think more creative on how we want to address these issues. It wasn't always like that. And to make matters worse, you go to other counties and you just have a felony on your record and that's it. There's no discussion, there's no compassion. It is law is the law. We're not going to try to work with you. We're not going to try to find other avenues in which we can help you overcome probably one of the worst days in your life. So things have come kind of full circle since being into the courtroom. However, Montgomery County is one of the best run courts. We have 4 specialty dockets. Specialty dockets have been popping up all over, not just in the adult court, but I had the opportunity to run the juvenile court, treatment court for under Judge Capizzi when I was a magistrate, which are addressing the needs of substance abuse and mental health there. There's also mental health being addressed in juvenile court as well. And of course we know about the Common Pleas Court, which has your women's treatment court, men's treatment court, veterans court, those types of courts there. So things are really shifting in how we want to address particularly the non-violent offenders. My dockets are, when I say docket, that's when the action really happens, where you have your prosecutor, your defense counsel work things out and maybe either set it for trial, set it for a motion, or plea negotiations. That's where the defendants will come in, either they're in custody or out of custody on Thursday mornings. Aside from that, I'm getting ready and writing decisions and entries and a lot of civil cases. We talk a lot about the criminal stuff because that's what most people see, but you know, there's a lot of people that are in litigation civilly, which takes up the bulk of your docket as well. So it's a great opportunity, and it's a great mixture of all types of things happening in Montgomery County. But at the end of the day, you know, we are all being called not just to do the job that's being given to us, but to do the job plus, which is social work as well. So I would love to entertain any questions so far. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, do you make referrals to any of the other specialty courts?
Oh yeah, so that's how it works. When they are placed on, once they admit or they plead guilty, they'll get screened, they'll go through our pretrial probation department, do a pre-sentence investigation. Sometimes a recommendation will be made towards one of the courts based off of their background and what they think might tailor their needs. So it's a very streamlined process, and it's the same process that they do in juvenile court. When I was in juvenile court, I worked with and still do building bridges, and started a at-risk youth program where I bring youth to our Centerville CrossFit gym so that they can get outside of their comfort zone. Primarily, many of them are in West Dayton, but they get to come to Centerville. What's happened since they've been coming there, and they get screened, kind of what we were talking about. Not every kid wants to go to the gym and work out, but what happens is the ones that do get exposed to something that they haven't seen before. We also have relationships with Chipotle and Whole Foods, so now they get to eat better because, as we know, there's a food desert in many of these areas, and they get taken there to make sure they have green on their plate or purple or red, something that they don't typically have because typically they have fried foods. So it's been a program that's kind of been going on for 3 years now. It goes back to that just being creative, and hopefully we can do the same thing additionally with adults.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, that's one thing about Joe. He works with the young people, and he works himself works out, and he takes the young people with him to work out.
Got to. Yeah, you have to.
I've seen him do that, and it's wonderful.
Thank you.
And plus, he's a member of our Doorway Doctors Club.
But yeah, and it's people were kind of disappointed when I moved into the adult realm just because of the juveniles, but it's actually much better because I had to worry about a juvenile might appearing in front of me, even though I could keep none of them did. I could keep them screened away, and I could go. There's plenty of other magistrates there, but now being in this role, being a young African American male, and being able to give back to many of the young people in general, so they can see the court system, because many of them don't realize the significant change that happens when they turn 18. Okay, and it's just a whole new ball game. And teaching a 14, 15, 16-year-old that, you know, juvenile court is about rehabilitation, right? But as my mom would say, once you become an adult, you grown, right? And not as many people care to rehabilitate a 25, 30, 40-year-old. So that has been a big push for me, because I really want them to understand that the game really changes when they turn 18. And you do not have to live the same life that you did as a juvenile, despite your circumstances. And that's all we can ask and do our best, and we're all collectively working to do so and achieve that. So.
I just want to make a comment that, you know, from the Office of Reentry, we really appreciate the fact that you're there, and I know I do personally, because of having that mindset and disposition to want to rehab and work with folks and get them back on track. That just means a lot, because that's how we're going to push a lot of things forward in terms of getting our community back together. You know, working community is a safe community. An educated community is a safe community. All those things, the family reunification, you know, all those different components are going to make for a better community. And it just, you know, it's good to know that you echo that.
My goal at some point would be, and I've already stressed this with the administrative judge, about finding a way to do what they're doing in federal court. Judge Rice does at the reentry docket there. I'm gonna be darned if I can find a way to do a reentry somehow in Montgomery County Common Pleas. That is something that that's just one of those things that you're shooting for, because people think you have to start big with a lot of these things, and you don't. I don't know, it doesn't have to be this big grandiose program. I need $50,000. No, give me 3 people that we can tailor to, and we can assign and start with 3 and see how it works, you know. And I don't, and that's what I did with the Building Bridges program with the youth. Just get a few kids, and then all of a sudden the other kids hear about it and they want to be a part of it. And then you find the kids that want to keep doing it. Next thing you know, you've got 8 to 10 kids that want to keep showing up. But if you show, moving on with adults, that there's a couple that you can help change the trajectory in their lives, and other people see that their lives are being changed as well, they're going to want to be a part of it too. So.